Welcome to the Six Steel City Rings podcast. I am Ray Whiting. With me, I have senior staff writers for Steeler Nation, Leanne Lohman and Bob Quinn. Guys, how you all doing?
Excited.
Wonderful.
This was an exciting day.
Yes, indeed. It's a great day to be a Steeler fan, and I'm telling you right now, I'm so giddy. Um, I thought about this, and again, I will run out and give me a chef hat. And people are saying right now, let Russ cook. Let him cook. But I can't find a chef hat, so I'll just wear my
There you go.
Pittsburgh Pirates hat. Guys, let's get it started because again, I'm so excited. Again, if I'm getting out of hand, just stop me, okay? Russell Wilson comes to Pittsburgh. Last week, we talked about the possibility of Russ coming to Pittsburgh. And Leanne, I remember you saying that Sierra doesn't like Pittsburgh. Well,
You said that. You told me that. I hadn't heard that before.
Oh,
I said that.
okay.
Oh, you said it. Okay. I thought it was Ray. Yeah, I'd never heard that before, so I hope she's happy.
Yeah, she's gonna like it now. One way or the other.
Right.
She'll like it.
At least for a year.
Yes. Russell Wilson signs for a $1.2 million deal. Of course, Denver pick up the rest of the contract that is owed to him. Guys, I tell you what, it's one hell of a deal. You all jump
It
in.
really is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's really hard to find the downside in this deal. I've seen, a lot of Steelers fans on social media that are very unhappy about it. And I think, it's hard to find that downside. I mean, you could say, okay, he's getting older. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have that much gas left in the tank. He's not the Russell Wilson he was when he won Super Bowls with the Seahawks, but he still outperformed Kenny Pickett, played less games in a very combative kind of situation in Denver where he knew they didn't want him, and he still outperformed Kenny Pickett. So if he comes for 1 year and he provides some leadership to this young quarterback that I think got really kind of let down by the team, having no veteran quarterback to work with, do you know what I mean? And having Mitch Trubisky and having even Mason Rudolph, do you know what I mean? I don't know how much of an opportunity he got to learn from Mason on top of like really bad offensive coordinator play design coming from Matt Canada. He got let down, and I think that that's fair to say. So maybe this provides him with that support that he needs, do you know what I mean, to become a better quarterback for the future. And maybe Russ cooks. Maybe Russ cooks in Pittsburgh and we pay him next year and it's all worth it. But he's on a prove it deal, so he's going to be trying to be the best Russ he can be.
Yeah, anybody who watched our last episode knows I'm not a huge fan of this move, but I mean it's done. There's no use crying about it like Mark Caboli has done to anybody who will listen, wanting us to should have brought back Mason Rudolph instead of signing Russell Wilson. There's upside to Russell Wilson. I mean, just because I wasn't a fan of, and he wasn't my first choice, doesn't mean I'm going to root against the guy. I think and a lot of this goes to, I watched Mark Schlereth wrote an article last night. Mark Schlereth crushed him on Thursday. It just absolutely destroyed him. But yesterday,
I did that article. He called him garbage.
Yeah, and I did the one last night where he went back on the Rich Eisen show and basically said that if any one person in the NFL could resurrect Russell Wilson's career, it's Arthur Smith. He's a huge fan of Arthur Smith. He thinks Russ works in the Arthur Smith offense. And, we got to embrace the reality, whether you like it or not, it's done. You got to, and now you got to root for the guy. And I think there is some trepidation. I mean, a lot of people keep bringing up this veteran minimum thing. Russell Wilson is not getting paid the veteran minimum.
Right.
He's getting paid $39 million this season.
Right.
The Steelers are only paying the $1.2 million of that, which is great.
Yeah, he didn't do something altruistic, like let me come to your team on the vet minimum and prove to you something. Do you know what I mean? Like his agent tried to find him a multi-year deal where he would make a massive contract and no one bid on that. So he's not doing like something out of his heart to like help the Steelers. He's getting paid.
Absolutely. And I think honestly, this is where really Kenny Pickett helped us get Russell Wilson, because I know he was interested and visited with the Giants. And I don't think he thought he could win a straight up quarterback competition with Daniel Jones, with Brian Dable deciding who was the winner and who was not. The rumor is that he had a fantastic meeting with Mike Tomlin on Friday, and the Schultz report said it was a match made in heaven, and they just clicked right away. It could be a good thing. It could catch lightning in the bottle. I think it really hurts us for 2025, but I also think Omar Khan said, hey, we're the new Rams. We're just going to go all in and get the best quarterback we can, put together the best roster we can, and worry about this year. And we'll worry about 2025 when it comes. The bill will come due.
Yeah.
If it's like the Rams, will have a terrible season, and then maybe we get right back on top with another giant signing.
Yeah.
Think about
But I think you're right. You can't always plan for the future. You got to plan for the season you've got in front of you right now. And we don't really have a lot of options for quarterback selection. You know what I mean? There's not that many in free agency. We aren't moving up to number 3 to get one in the draft. And so where does that leave you?
Yeah.
Going back to last week, I was on the fence as far as Russell Wilson. Then I done some research and I said, wait a minute. Last year, Russell Wilson threw for 3,070 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions with a 98 passer rating. Okay. Now, let's look at Kenny Pickett. 2,070 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions with 81.4 passer rating. Mitch Trubisky, 632 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, with 34.6 passer rating. And he was sacked 7 times. Okay. Now keep in mind the 6 games that Mitch started, it was a 6-game losing stretch. Again, he was under.
Well, Mitch didn't start 6 games. He only started 3. Well,
3.
2.
But the game
Well,
that he
he
played.
started 2, and then he came in at basically in the
Right.
first half against Arizona. They benched him after his 3rd game.
So
Or are you including last year too?
no, this is last year's stats.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, if you factor it in, you look at both combined Kenny's and Mitch's yardage, it still doesn't come up to Russell Wilson. So that's a plus right there. Plus, I also feel that look who picked up a 35-year-old quarterback last season, Cleveland, and Joe Flacco. So
I think he was closer to 40.
So maybe there is some light still left in Russell Wilson. So I'm happy with it. I'm cool with it. And most of all, again, I mean, there isn't that much to lose. So I'm cool with that. I do hope they draft a quarterback this year.
I do think with the new NFL rules about hitting quarterbacks, I think their life expectancy has definitely grown compared to what it used to be even 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, and there's no risk monetarily, because if it doesn't work, you can cut him. That point has been made over and over and over again. And if he does well, we're kind of laughing about this in the Steelers chat last night, because my point is, if he does well, it's actually worse for the Steelers because of the likelihood of him wanting a big number contract. It goes up. That being said, then it was pointed out to me, so you're pointing out the downside is that Russell Wilson plays well. So that's not really a downside. That makes for a great 2024. And like I said before, it kind of makes us the Rams. We go all in with this move. We bring in Patrick Queen, another high-priced guy on the defense, and we go for it. And hopefully that translates to playoff wins in a Super Bowl and all that good stuff. I mean, realistically, if Wilson has the resurgence that Schlereth thinks he'll have, then the Steelers could, in Arthur Smith's offense, and they won't ask Russell to do more than what he's capable of. Wilson threw for a decent amount of yards last year, but I mean, 3,000 is not what it used to be. I mean, the standard kind of now in 17 games is 4,000. That being said, he also checked it down more than anybody else in the league. I think Schlereth said he threw the most passes that were fewer than 5 yards since 2005. So Pittsburgh has to be realistic, and fans have to be realistic about what we're getting. He still throws a phenomenal deep ball, according to everyone. And
Yeah.
Arthur Smith's offense in the boot action and the play action is going to give him the opportunity to throw to George Pickens, who's the best receiver he's thrown to since DK Metcalf. Deontay will be in my mind, is a huge upgrade over Jerry Jeudy, and kind of gives him what he had in Seattle with Lockett and Metcalf. He's got Johnson and Pickens. So on the deep shots, should be a much more effective way for the Steelers to move the ball. I think we'll be shocked on how many passes he checks down. But that being said, he's not good at throwing any intermediate passes or timing passes, according to Schlereth, who did a lot of film study on him. So we'll see. I mean, there are positives to this move. He's mobile. He throws a good deep ball. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah.
What do you think, Leah?
Do either of you think that this will actually be a competition? Like, I know the Steelers have come out and said, 100% this is a competition. We're not just handing the ball to, the starting job to Russell Wilson. He's going to have to compete against Kenny Pickett. I mean, that's been their mantra all along. And I think it was interesting because last week, Ryan Clark said that he believed that no matter who they brought in, it was all a setup to start Kenny Pickett, that was their goal, that they would bring somebody else in and then pretend like Pickett beat that person out and won the starting job. But now with the analysts, and I haven't heard Clark's opinion today, but now the analysts are kind of shifting that to say that they think that that's just lip service and that Wilson would be your starter no matter what.
I believe this case that Russell Wilson will start week 1. He's a QB1. And he's going and Kenny Pickett's going to learn under him. As you well know, Russell is not going to stay. He's not going to be in Pittsburgh for too long. So Kenny can learn, because keep in mind, when Kenny was drafted, he didn't really have anybody to turn to for mentoring other than Mitch Trubisky. Well, we see how that turned out. So to have a Super Bowl quarterback, 8-time Pro Bowler in Russell Wilson, I'm sorry. Kenny should sit down and watch Russell cook. Watch him cook, and he'll learn. Now, of course, if Russ goes down by injury or if he's playing poorly, then you're throwing Kenny Pickett. But keep in mind, the AFC North division as a whole is the most competitive division, the toughest division in all of football. So you look at Lamar Jackson, you look at Joe Burrow, a healthy Joe Burrow. And now you're going to have Deshaun Watson back with Joe Flacco on the sideline. So the stakes are high right now. So I don't believe that they will stick Kenny in as a QB1 faring against those 3 other quarterbacks, because, again, it's a tough division. And it's one of those type of deals where you got to win a division or it's almost like you going home, because the AFC, the conference as a whole, is tough. And look where we were at last year as far as the seeding. So,
just to correct one thing, Russell Wilson is a 9-time Pro Bowler, not an 8.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Arthur Smith, this whole let Russ cook thing, I mean, that little mantra that Seattle had going, if you look, when they started letting Russ cook, the defense started to age out. They de-emphasized the running game. He had some nice statistical seasons, but Seattle stopped advancing in the playoffs when they went to, and it's kind of like, I could parallel him with Ben Roethlisberger. The more Ben became a throwing quarterback and throwing for 4,000 or 5,000 yards and 500-yard games, and we de-emphasized the running game, the worse we did.
Yeah.
We haven't won a playoff game in a long time because of it. So I think that Russ, in a structured running game with a good defense, look, we're not asking you, not a game manager, but we're not asking you to go out and throw the ball 50 times.
Yeah.
If it's close, win us the game with your arm. But we still want to run the football. And I mean, we know Arthur Smith is going to run heavy personnel. And this is, we're going to get single high looks with the safeties. And that's going to mean that on those straight play action passes with 7-step drops, you got George Pickens going over the top and you got Deontay coming across the field. One of those two is going to be open in that play action, and either one is going to be just phenomenal when they catch the ball in that kind of space, because they've proven they can run after the catch and they can beat one-on-one coverage. And if the Steelers running game is even close to what they hope it will be and what they showed over the last half of last season, that could really work. I mean, one-on-one coverage with those two receivers and us pounding the ball into the box, that is something to get excited about.
I actually hope it's the opposite of let Russ cook, because I think that's what happened to him in Denver a little bit, was that he was brought in with all this money and expected to be this like savior of this team. And, he was going to carry the whole team on his back and win all these games. And I think that that was a ridiculous expectation, for him. And I think that the difference in Pittsburgh is we don't need that savior person. Do you know what I mean? We have a lot of really good personnel. We just need somebody to help them work together as a unit. So I know people don't like the term game manager, and maybe that's not the right word for it, but it is somebody to lead and manage this offense, which is what we've been lacking since Roethlisberger left.
Well, I think Kenny Pickett's.
The thing is,
one thing, Ray. I think Kenny Pickett's going to get some poetic justice, in the sense that he's going to go into a quarterback competition that's about the same as Mason Rudolph went into a quarterback competition with Trubisky and Pickett in 2022. I mean, I haven't given up on
So
Kenny.
You think it won't be a real competition?
Exactly. I mean, Tomlin's already kind of proven it with Rudolph. Yeah, you're competing, but you're third string. I think it's going to be the same thing with Pickett. You just realistically, I mean, I think it's Orlovsky. I don't know if you did the article on this, Leanne, or not, but I know the site did it. I think it was Orlovsky who said, if Russell Wilson can't beat out Kenny Pickett, his career is over.
Yeah, I saw that.
I can see that. Yeah. And of course, I mean, as Russ says, he has 5 good years left in him, at least 5. So why not?
Hope so.
Yeah, why not make the best of it? So the pressure, to me, the pressure's on both Kenny and Russ. The pressure's on Russ to prolong his career, because, and I don't believe that he's gonna get that money from Pittsburgh, get that top dollar money like he used to. Kenny, on the other hand, I'm sure he sees that, okay, like you all said, Russ is on his last leg. So I got to go up and I got to produce when the chance arrives. But like I said, we'll see. And again, I'm happy right now, based upon the stats and everything. And I have a gut feeling that it's going to get better on the offense. Again, we have the 1-2 punch in Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. Pat Fryer moved, down the middle, down the seams. So that right there, I mean, you talk about pick your poison, I believe, at this point right now. And given the fact that, you look at the Ravens, I mean, they're losing players right now. But of course, they picked up Derrick Henry, but also the Steelers picked up, they signed Patrick Queen. Mark Mann today, he said that this is by far the highest rated free agent pickup since James Farrior. And I believe that. And Patrick Queen is only 24 years old.
It's the most we've ever paid for a free agent in Steelers history.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I love the move until you said Mark Madden liked it. Now I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Mark Madden. Sometimes he's a little bit edgy, a little bit rough on the edges, but he's all right. I know he's a good guy. I like him.
I think Leanne and I both have the honor of being blocked by him on Twitter.
Yeah.
So
He hasn't blocked me,
but okay.
He hasn't blocked me, but
it's a badge of honor.
Yes.
To be blocked.
I wish he would block me.
Look at it.
But I
After
know he has his fans out there. I know he has his fans out there and people who enjoy his shtick or whatever you want to call it. But
he kind of
Yeah,
reminds me of Jim Rome, where he comes off on folks. It's kind of funny. But yeah, it was kind of interesting what he said today about Patrick Queen. Um, guys, to me, who will he replace?
well, he's inside linebacker one now. There's
right.
no question. You
You're
don't
right.
pay him that kind of money.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not, I mean, first of all, he's good in coverage, which the Steelers desperately need. We all know what it looked like. Tight ends carved us up
Yeah.
for most of the season after Alexander and Holcomb went down in back-to-back games. So, I mean, Queen is durable. He's young. He played his best football. He's on an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see if he reverts a little bit without having Roquan Smith next to him. But that being said, the moment that the Ravens decided to pay Roquan Smith, as they should, I mean, he's
Yeah.
top 5 inside linebacker. There's no way they could keep Queen. I mean, they could as long as they didn't mind having a defensive line or cornerbacks, but they decided to
Right.
let Queen go based on the money that he got. I mean, I think it's a genius move by Omar Khan. All reports
Absolutely.
that he was going to command 18 to 20 million dollars, and they signed him for basically 14 per. Leon, I think you were doing something on what his actual cap hit was.
It wasn't me, somebody else did it. So, but I remember seeing it. I can pull it back up. What his actual cap hit was. It was surprisingly small, very small considering. Let's see if I can find it here.
Let's see.
6.13 million was his cap hit. So I mean that's small, much smaller than you would have expected. And really we almost don't need him to replace anybody because we have no idea what's happening with Holcomb, after that injury. And Quan Alexander, after his injury, I think he's also a free agent this year. So I mean, we just got gaps at inside linebackers. So I mean, I think we got him. We may still have to draft somebody or pick somebody else up. Do you know what I mean? Depending on what happens with those two.
Well, I think they'll definitely draft somebody, but the good part
Yeah.
about Queen is now we don't need a guy in the top 3 rounds. I mean, I mean
Right.
if Colson or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. or if they fell
Somebody
in our laps,
falls. Yeah.
yeah, then I don't think that. But we can go get a thumper now in the later rounds because Queen is your coverage back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he does in the middle of the defense. It's another big spend on the defensive side of the football, but I think as of right now, we're projecting to be about $130 million in cap room in 2025. So there are some interesting things that could happen. I still think we've got to figure out something with Pat. I think that's coming. I think that'll be part of it in a restructure. Najee now on a 5th-year option. I mean, it's always been a no-brainer to pick him up for $6 million. It's a good deal for Najee. My issue isn't with the cap hit. My issue is with Najee himself, maybe deciding, you know what, I'm not going to play for that. And we get another Lev Bell situation, or Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs or any of these other big guys who ended up getting decent deals yesterday. But they had to hold out and really fight just to get a franchise tag after their 5th season. So, Najee was vocal last year about the running back contract. So I could see him, if they pick up his option, maybe pulling like an Austin Eckler and saying, "Hey, I don't want to play for that." I mean, he did, but he didn't want to.
Looking back on what Najee said last year. I mean, again, he has every right to voice his concern about the running back situation as far as the pay. If we give you that money, you got to produce. The question is, did he produce like he's supposed to as a first round draft pick? Did he produce? Did he live up to steal away?
Well, I don't know if you define the Steeler way so much.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been pushed forward as a leader. I think a little too much by Tomlin. first Steeler running back in history to start his career with 1,000 yards. I'm a Najee fan. I
Yeah.
like him. I see his value. I also think he's way better in a tandem with Jalen Warren,
Yes.
or if something happens where, and there's another guy who's going to be up for a contract next year.
I
And then
agree.
rubber really meets the road. Do you stick with, do you pay them both? I think you should, but you
You're gonna
can't
have
pay them
to.
both 10 million.
I
Yeah.
believe you do have to pay them both, Bob, because I think Tomlin learned the hard way where, he has that saying of, I'm gonna run them till the wheels fall off. Well, you can't do that because when the wheels do fall off and then the backup doesn't produce like it's supposed to, then you're really screwed down. You look at the quarterback has to win the ball game. I
Well, I
believe,
mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I believe in this case here, I mean, great, they pick up the option, the 5th-year option for Najee. I'm sure he's going to give him a hometown discount. I'm sure that's not going to happen. But Najee, he better realize that, no, you're not going to get Christian McCaffrey money. That's not going to happen. But unless he rushes for 2,000 yards, that's the only way I can see it. Yeah.
I don't think he'll be looking for Christian McCaffrey money, but he's definitely going to be
Mm-mm.
looking for Josh Jacobs and
Yes.
Saquon Barkley money.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
And
And it'll
I
be
can see it.
interesting to see what happens this year with the offense because, Arthur Smith historically has been the kind of offensive coordinator that has his guy, you know what I mean? And that's who he uses. And so that dual running back situation is not something that we saw him implement in Tennessee, and so it'll be interesting to see if he continues to make that work, to use both of them all the time, or does he kind of gravitate towards using one of them more often. And I think what happens this year is going to really dictate what happens in the future for Najee, because I think it's hard to put a lot of emphasis on things he did when our offensive line was so bad, when the play calling was so bad. You know what I mean? I think while he had his own things that were his fault, there was also a lot of things that were out of his control.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he has issues. I mean, he's getting better at it, and
Yes.
this is kind of why I would like to see a different voice in his head besides Eddie Faulkner. But he runs to contact instead of away from contact. I think that his rookie year really hurt him because he was trying to run to the hole and there wasn't a hole, and he was breaking. I think he led if he didn't lead the league, he was second behind Derrick Henry in breaking tackles. But Derrick Henry was breaking tackles to gain 5 yards of carry. Najee Harris was breaking 2 or 3 tackles just to get back to the line of scrimmage. So I think he lost faith in, hey, I'm supposed to hit that hole, but it's not there.
Rightfully
Exactly.
so.
And I think this is really where Jalen opened his eyes and why he's so much better in a tandem. He still makes some mistakes. He still runs to contact. He does some things that he shouldn't do, but he's much better at it. But Jalen, I think, really opened his eyes, saying, "Hey, Najee, we're supposed to run through the gap and go as fast as we can. It's not, oh, well, let me see if the gap's open and make something happen. Just go do what you're supposed to do." That's why, I mean, when Warren is kind of getting the first touch carries, in different series, sometimes he'll fly. I mean, it looks great coming through the line of scrimmage. He's going 100 miles an hour, but he only gains 1 yard. I mean, you almost feel like, oh God, is he going to get up from that hit?
Right.
Guys, I know this is the main 2 topics we want to talk about. I know we, again, just so excited right now for the signings right now. One last thing before we hop off here, guys, let's talk about Omar Khan. Are you pleased with what he's doing now?
I certainly am. I think this is fantastic.
Give me a letter grade right now on him.
With the Patrick Queen signing, that puts him at like an A- for me.
Yeah, for this offseason, I give him, I would agree, an A-. If you're looking at the totality of his tenure, I'd say a B+. I think he learned some very valuable lessons.
Yeah.
It's good to extend your options to 30-year-olds. probably not the best idea to sign a 33-year-old cornerback to a $7 million contract. And I think we're seeing that this offseason. He's not jumping out. He's being very deliberate. Although Russell Wilson was really, I mean, that was kind of the first big deal of free agency, even though he didn't pay very much money for it. But this Patrick Queen deal addresses a real need, gives us a real starter who's young and kind of fits that Steeler mold of young free agents. I don't think he's near done. We desperately need cornerback help.
Yeah.
I think but I also think he doesn't want to get burned like last year. I hated to see Chidobe Awuzie come off the board today to the Titans. The Titans are really making some noise in free agency. You know, there's guys out there. I mean, we'll see what he does, but I mean, I think you can almost count on a corner. You can almost count on a safety.
Yeah.
I think center we're going to have to draft because there's
nobody left.
Yeah, I
Really?
mean, there are guys. I thought just going back to Russell Wilson for a second, I thought it was very telling that Lloyd Cushenberry went somewhere else. And maybe it's good for both of them to get a fresh start. But
that's a good
hey,
point.
it's your center. Yeah, your quarterback and a center, that's a unique relationship. It's surprising that they would go their separate ways.
Yeah.
When they didn't have
What about you, Ray? What's your grade?
My grade right now, it would have to be A.
Yeah.
Again, you have to be aggressive right now, given the fact that, again, you look at the age factors on the team. You look at Cam Hayward, you know, he's in his 30s. TJ Watt, he's knocking at 29. So you got to do something. And again, we saw the way Joe Flacco played. I mean, he looked like the old, Baltimore Raven Joe Flacco. So, and again, I thought he was washed up. So, like I said, right now, and then Joe Burrow, he's back, along with Jamar Chase. There's a little bit of rumblings there because T. Higgins wants to trade. Tyler Boyd, I think he's on the outside looking in. So, I think he's looking at one to sign with Pittsburgh. Joe Mixon is gone. So, there's a lot to be said. But again, yes, you have to. He had to be very aggressive just coming out the gate. Again, don't stop.
Aggressive, but he was deliberate. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes teams seem frantic, like they're going to snatch up everybody in a hurry, before they lose people. And it almost feels like they don't think through all of those choices and how these people will work together and all of those things. So to me, I like that he feels very deliberate, like this is thoughtful, it is thought out. They've done their homework. They know what they want. They're being very selective. Do you know what I mean? And that feels good. And I think Colbert used to be like that, but then he never signed anybody of any real substance. So I like that that we would be aggressive enough to go get somebody like Queen. That gives me hope that we will make those big deals when we need to, which is something I felt like, Colbert didn't always do.
Colbert, again, we've talked about this before. Colbert, I don't think he was too aggressive, in the beginning of his career there as GM. Because basically, I mean, Ben was the highlight of all the draft. Ben was the highlight. So everything else just fall into place. But his last 5-6 years as GM, I mean, he was super conservative. I mean, it was like, why you pick this person? I mean, it was just,
I think you have to also factor in the money issue. I think the Steelers are cheap. Do you know what I mean? I think that's notorious. It's been a punchline, but it's not a joke. Brian McFadden said on his podcast today that the Steelers are like that old auntie you have that will use like every coupon and discount code and everything they can. They shop at like Burlington Coat Factory and Ross and find something really good for not that much money. But yeah, it was a very funny analogy, but really accurate.
But then you say, well, when it comes to fiscal spending with the Steelers, we've seen cases where the likes of, say, like Cleveland, they've overspent some of their players, and they've been in salary cap hell for quite some time. So they've been a bottom feeder, at the same time. So I guess they look at being
in the same situation.
What's that?
We were in the same situation at the, basically Ben's contract, I mean, the cap was a little bit different then, but Ben was getting a top 5 quarterback contract.
Yeah.
We were in the same situation. If you're paying top 5 quarterback money, you got to make real choices. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And we were
Kansas City-
overpaying those offensive linemen. We kept them probably a little too long. And, you know, I think that hurt that same period too.
Absolutely. And if you're going to pay that kind of money, you got to do what Kansas City's doing right now, which is hit on every single draft pick.
Yes.
And we stopped hitting on draft picks. I mean, Colbert, you know, we've kind of, you know, covered this a little bit. He was living off reputation. He got a lot of credit the second half of his career for stuff he just didn't do. He gets huge credit for drafting Antonio Brown in the 6th round. I mean, by the end of his career, it was a decade ago. I mean, all his really good stuff happened pre-2012. You know, 2013, it just started sliding down. And really by 2015, it went completely off the rails. I've said this before. His last 7 years, he should have been fired. He did a terrible job.
Yeah.
His first 15 years, he's probably a Hall of Fame guy. I mean,
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, it could be Steelers had that philosophy, and you know, free agency really blew up under Colbert. They decided they're going to build through the draft, and you know, it worked for a long time. But you know, when they started dipping into free agency, it was always very deliberate, like Ferrier fit Steelers free agent
Yes.
mold. Young veteran. Think he's been underutilized by the Jets. We think there's
Yeah.
something there, and you know, we turned free agency the last few years of Colbert into, well, who did we like at the draft and who did that team cut?
Yeah.
You know, and we kind of got, that's why I'm probably not the only Steelers fan who's, you know, crossing their fingers that Chase Young will sign somewhere else besides Pittsburgh, but everybody knows Tomlin loves him. So, you know, I think Omar's different. I don't think he's going to give in to that, but you know, if it was 3 years ago, we'd be talking about Chase
Concerned.
Young as the big signing.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this seems like a short episode here. It's you know, it feels
But they
kind
should
of
still like, share, and subscribe it.
Yes, please.
like
A little quick update to talk about the
Yeah.
signings that happened rather than a full episode today, just to, because you can't wait days to talk about these kinds of monumental things.
Right. Mhm.
So please like, share, and subscribe.
And if you want to send an email, we will read your emails. If you have any questions, please send the emails to sixsteelcityrings@yahoo.com. That's sixsteelcityrings@yahoo.com. Guys, hey, just keep your ears to the ground. You
Yep.
know, we know something else is brewing right now, so of course we're gonna talk about it when it happens.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Until we see you again, make sure you go to SteelerNation.com. You can keep up with all the signings, all
Download
the
the app.
news.
Yes.
Download the app. Absolutely.
Check out Leanne and Bob's writings. I mean, it's excellent. I love it. I love it. I love it. Guys, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ray.
Hey, we'll talk again
Thanks, Ray.
soon. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Take care. Bye.